All right, we are live. What's going on, everybody? Let me get this tweeted out here. Da, da, da. I think I spelled that right. Okay, looks good. Okay, yeah. So, wow. Hope everybody had a great trading day today. I think it was a pretty interesting day today. It was. Let's go to the SPX and just kind of take a look at overall what's going on. So, as we know, we like to look at the bigger, time frames, kind of see what's going on. So let's zoom out here on the weekly, right? Obviously, overall, pretty big, uptrend. We have this correction here back in December, which was pretty major, right? When we were looking at then this huge recovery after it closed below the Bollinger Band, pushed through, bounced off the 200 weekly moving average, and then just kind of went up from there, pretty significantly. So that is pretty wild. So we talked about here, or we looked at on Twitter at least, that we had a shooting star setup from last week, and right now we're kind of sitting on kind of like a doji spinning top week inside the cloud. So futures are actually up pretty good right now. So we'll see if that pushes a little bit higher and gets a cloud breakout. If it takes out this tail right this week, that could be a strong move all the way up, possibly higher. So let's take a look at the daily. So the daily looked like a death cross was kind of imminent here on the 5 and 10 MA, but the basically held today as a doji. It looked pretty scary in the beginning of the day, right? Tagged a couple times at that 2785 level, right, which we looked at on the different floor pivot levels that we explored yesterday, and just make sure everything's there. And so, kind of bounced off that twice and then ended up closing kind of in the middle of the range at where? That key, basically that 2800 level, which is right where that mid Bollinger Band is. So still this kind of major area that we're at, real kind of pivotal, because if we go back and we look on the daily, right, I have this, basically this congestion, this kind of resistance support zone kind of added here in this clear, or this, kind of whitish band here across the top. So we have, top, 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 right? And then, resistance, resistance, and then now is it support or is it gonna be resistance? So we'll see, right? So we had a gap down here. We had a little gap that was here that was filled. We have a gap here at 2784. We hit today at 2785.02. So that gap never got filled, and there's a gap here too. So just have to be cautious that if the market does get weak, there is a possibility to fill those gaps at some point. So, but in the meantime, if it doesn't, then we may continue to push higher. So definitely a good target there is that pivot, which was I believe that, last week's high, which is right here. So that would be that tail, right, that topping tail that we saw on the weekly chart. Okay, so kind of zooming in here, let's just kind of do a quick review of the trading on the 5-minute time frame. So if we go to today's bar, let me just make sure that's for tomorrow. Okay, so today's pivots, we just kind of look at that real quick, just zooming in on the 5-minute time frame. Right, we can kind of see here that the market kind of gapped down, right? So these were key volumetric levels here, and here's your weekly pivot level, which we talked about yesterday, and here's your 2785 level down here. So we gapped down, right? And looks like it tried to push up, but it ran into volumetric resistance right here. They had kind of a tweezer top right here, and then boom, to the downside. So pretty much the whole time, the 5 MA was below the 10 MA, which kind of says, hey, no reason to go long right here. So we just waited until you had a death cross right here, and that was a pretty good move here from 2800 all the way down to 2785. So a nice 15-point move there. Ultimately, then what happened, right? Crossover, golden cross, kind of came back up, retested those levels, another tweezer top right here into cloud resistance, and then kind of came back down, right? So at this point, it didn't really flush, right? So it want to kind of retest some levels, gave you a bear flag right here, push down, another bear flag down, right? Retested this level, and then finally right here, golden cross, and then up kind of to that 2800 range by the end of the day. So pretty interesting stuff, right? A couple, you can kind of zoom in a little bit further. You can kind of see a cup and handle forming here. So it's possible that breaks tomorrow. This is this actually is since this is at the low of the day right here, this is a 2B, reversal bottom right here. So basically this was the prior low right here. So the bar that pierced the prior low was, looks like it could have been, let's see, the low here was 2785.34, and this low is 2785.62. So not quite, not really perfect, but a break above here that tagged below the low of the day, started the low of the day, nice green reversal bar right here, and that kind of launched after that, right? So just something to keep an eye on there. Okay, so for tonight's technical topic, what I wanted to talk about is the mom, right? So I thought it was pretty funny, trading with mom, right? So, actually, it's for the momentum indicator. So you can see that right here, the mom, right? It starts with MOM, right? So then momentum indicator. So, so pretty cool. Just kind of want to show you here. We'll just take a look at the SPX, just kind of see what we're looking at. The obviously we have some key levels here that we talked about yesterday, and from there. Uh, we want to look at the momentum index. So basically what the momentum is, it's another oscillator, right? So, but what it does, right, is it takes the basically the rate of change of the price, and then kind of plots that. So obviously here we're moving up pretty quickly, so there you have a pretty steep move right here, right? We kind of slowed down right here and reverse, so here we slow down right here and reverse. So pretty cool stuff. I mean, basically, you don't want to necessarily trade directly off of this. What I did want to show you too, which is kind of cool, this is we've talked about in the past the John Carter's TTM, the squeeze, and I believe the histogram that he uses in his indicator here is the momentum indicator here, the from the momentum. So here we crossed over 0, and it's not quite. I think it's a different time frame. So this might be the 20 momentum. Let me just. I could probably edit that just to confirm. Give me 1 second. So it says it's 20. So let me check what that does. I guess the default is 12, which is fine. Let's see how that works. Yeah. So right here we broke through 0. Right, and it kind of came up right here, kind of came back down and started to get to 0 right there, and then the histogram went to the downside. So this just shows the distance of how far the momentum oscillator is from the 0 line. See, it kind of came back down, so you can see it kind of maps right there. So just another example of how that was used. But we'll just go back to the default there. So I'm going to remove this squeeze study here. We'll go back to momentum. We'll change that back to, what was it? Let's remove it. Momentum, give me 1 second. I know you guys can't see, I'm just messing around in the box right there. Okay, apply. So we'll put back the last one at the 12. Okay, so this is kind of your default level. So what I want to show you, just that is kind of neat. So, other than obviously learning candlesticks and learning setups is really effective, because we can take all this stuff off and you can still just trade price, for a lot of ways. But these indicators really help us for a couple reasons. One, it gives us something else to look at besides just price, because we could get lost in candlesticks and lost in price. And two, it gives us points of reference. That's why I like moving averages. I don't necessarily trade off of those, but I like to see where I'm at in space, right? And what other traders are looking at, and more importantly, what algorithms are looking at, right? Algos like these key levels, right? The floor traders. Floor traders like these floor trader levels, right? Algos like the Ichimoku cloud, right? So, all these different type of things, algorithms can kind of move off of, right? And of course, they like the internals, right? We can tell when they're moving when we see the tiki, move to the top or the bottom. We can see the tick. If there's if there's a lot of buying pressure or selling pressure, we can look at the vol, SPD, which I'm just going to click on right now really quickly, just kind of show you what it did today. It never hurts to just reference this intraday and just kind of look at your moving averages and see how they move. And I believe a couple of these, the vol SPD, you had a golden cross before the SPX did. So here we had this. I'm sorry, this is a death cross. That was at 11:45. If we go to the SPX, yeah, if we go to the SPX, so did I say 11:45? So this happened here at 11:50. So again, the vol SPD led the SPX moving averages by 5 minutes, right? So it kind of gives you a big advantage. You can see a move happening. Let me show that to you one more time, so you don't have to rewind the video. Here, okay. So you can see, I mean, it does mirror a lot, very much what the market's, obviously volume's flowing into it, right? The market's going up, volume's flowing out of it, market's going down. And so here, right, you have the death cross right here where the 5 crosses over the 10 MA, and then right about 5 minutes before the SPX moved. And how much was that move? Let's take a look. If we got in 11:45, or even a little after 11:45. Okay, so if we were right here, we would have kind of been in this level right here, so about 2,800, right? So it would have been a little bit painful, right? You had to sit through this bear flag right here, and then it eventually dropped to the 2790-ish. So almost a 10-point move off of that. Would have gotten chopped up, so it would have been a pretty rough trade option-wise, but but you get the idea. Okay, so real quick, back to the momentum. So obviously we can see it's a momentum oscillator. It shows you the rate of change of price and how that's going, right? So the idea is over zero, right? Over the zero line, you're bullish, right? Under the zero line, you're bearish, right? Just like the sort of like the squeeze, histogram and all that. So that's all really good. But what I wanted to show you something pretty interesting is you can look for patterns inside the momentum oscillator, and that are tradable, right? So one pattern that I really like to see is the is a head and shoulders pattern. Okay, so here you can this is actually a really very clear example right here. So you have your left shoulder here, your head here, and then your right shoulder here. Okay, so the question is, when would you go short? And it's just like when you're trading price, you wait for a neckline break. Okay, so here you have that, and you get to your neckline right there. Okay, so the time to short, right, based on this, if it breaks through, is right here at 11:35. So you almost caught the peak. You had your tweezer top right here, but you can see here the MA really peaked out right at that volumetric level, and you would have caught a much better move with that. So actually just trading off the indicator on a crossover of the 0 or the M is lagging, right? But here, if you can kind of see a pattern setting up, but you could also see here too that you have, right, a bit of a head and shoulder setting up too in price. Okay, so it's just like anything, it's but it gave you a little more defined, right? So it never really put in a right shoulder right here. It ended up dropping, but the momentum indicator gave you a little bit better move because you had a hammer bar right here, so that gave you your push up right here, and then it finally broke through that and gave you a break to the downside. So that was about right here, and you probably could have caught a tail end of that. And so that's about 28.03 down to 28.96, which is a little bit better move and a little bit you don't have to worry about dealing with this this bear flag right here. So that's one example. Another one that I found pretty interesting too is obviously you look for some sort of kind of cup, kind of handle type break, but that didn't really work well. But I like these head and shoulders on this indicator. So here was another one. Okay, so you had a left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Okay, so here's your first area here. So you can just draw a trend line like that, basically there. Okay, so you just wait for the break of the neckline. So that is right here at this time frame. Sorry, so that is 2:35. Not a bad place to enter. Okay, right here it was getting ready to trigger a golden cross on the 510 MA. You had a nice momentum hammer bar, and what does that do right here? What this actually did was a measured move. Okay, so the measured move is you have your big green bar right here. You pause with a momentum hammer, and then you have a continued measured move right there. So that alone, that 27.91 all the way up to 27.94, was a huge momentum and would have been a big spike in option trades off of the SPX or potentially the SPY or something like that. And then it ended up kind of drifting higher throughout the day, which I think I tweeted out was a 5x trade somewhere there. So that was pretty much that. Here is just kind of rough. You didn't really get the shoulders, but keep an eye on the momentum oscillator or the momentum indicator. Look for these head and shoulder patterns. I think you'll find them pretty effective. And I hope that helps your trading a bit. So at this point, if anybody has any questions or chart requests, please feel free to plug those into the chat window, and we'll get through those the best we can. We'll try to finish up around 10 o'clock so we can get a good night's sleep. But obviously, you guys know I'm always happy to answer any questions or take a look at whatever you have to ask. So here we go. Prayer Kid, you made it tonight. Awesome, man. Appreciate it. We always appreciate you being here. And great stuff tweeted out today too, man. Awesome. Andrew, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you. Call Saul, hey BH, hope you had a good day too. Yeah, man, definitely, and I hope you did as well. Netfry, what's going on? Cat, yeah, Cyclic Cat, thank you for mentioning that. That was going to go on the game plan list, but I don't think I put it out for some reason. Let me see what I was looking at here. Well, I haven't released the game plan yet, but oh yeah, it was here's the Saturn setup, right? The Saturn rig setup, but it was, I think it was kind of a decent move here. It recently came off the 50 MA. It came down and it kind of came into cloud support on the daily. The weekly, just kind of holding spinning top right there, not too much going on. So honestly, it's kind of at a key level here on the daily, right? We had the fib fan line from here, so it's been kind of holding on to that, and it's also holding on to the cloud. So what I would do is just see if it breaks today's highs. and then might get another push up back to the 50 MA, so kind of like around that area. If it takes out today's lows, well, then it gets back below the cloud, and then you have a shot here at testing the lower fib fan kind of around this like 127 area. Just be careful with Caterpillar. In my opinion, if you're going to swing it, better to do spreads on it, because the actual spreads of the options can be pretty nasty with Caterpillar, and sometimes the volume's not really that good. So just like for here for existence, so for example, so you have 30-cent spread right here, kind of at the money. Right here's like 35, so it's kind of not easy to trade, right? And then the volume is not really good either, and the open interest is it's okay, but I mean you only have like here, 136, 14, right? So it's not really a heavy traded option setup. So granted, this is the Aprils, I apologize, but still it's usually pretty similar. Low volume here, only in the hundreds, and still the spreads can be 10, 15, 20 cents. So so just keep an eye on that. That's basically the only thing with cat. So, but when it moves, and if you can catch it, especially on like some good, Chinese trade, news or something like that, it can really move with the Dow. Shirley, what's going on? Good to see you. I hope you're doing well, doing better, and all that. Paul, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you. Nudie Poo, what's going on? ACB, absolutely. Cool. Aurora Cannabis. So, pretty awesome right here, guys. I mean, this is, this is a great setup. I mean, you don't want to put, bet the bank on it or anything like that, or bet the house on it. But a lot of times when you get a nice close like this, over the where the whole bar is over the upper Bollinger Band, and then the next day, the Bears clearly won there, right? It was, you had this nice green bar, but it's like, okay, it tried and then came back in. So you had this red day that closed with RSI oversold. That combination right there is fantastic. And so from there, I mean, if you shorted there, I mean, you'd have been getting all the way from, 994 down to 875. So on this stock, that's obviously pretty good. And then so at this point, we just have a, kind of a big spinning top day right there. It's kind of holding the mid-Kel, mid-Bollinger Band. You do have a little bit of a death cross kind of coming in there on the 510. Let's just take a look here and see how it looks on the, what do we got? We got stuff for everything here. Let's just take a look here at the daily. We definitely looked at this one in the past, right? So we saw here from this high to this low, we tested the fib fan here, came back in, broke through it, held, and then broke out. So at this point, we just kind of have to say like, hey, is this, kind of getting overextended? So what I would do is just draw, a bit of a, kind of a trend line here to there, and just kind of see how that holds. So you have an open gap right here. If it does fill that, it might test that test $8 before going back up. So that is something definitely to keep an eye on. Yeah. So awesome. Sandeep, what's going on, buddy? Appreciate you too, man. All your support. Busy day at the office today. Didn't get to trade on your alerts today. Just went through all your alerts. Cool, man. And then, yeah, on the I also put a separate video for subscribers, so you can kind of see what the trades were and kind of go through those. So so hopefully you find that helpful. Style of providing alerts, also commentary occasionally. Hope you made some gains. Yeah, today ended up being net positive, so that was good. Yeah, I mean overall good. And so can you please look at W and LGND? Yep, absolutely, my pleasure. And thank you again for your support. What was I thinking? Yeah, so basically on the sorry guys, with the newsletter you get free alerts like through the through the positive-trends .com/newsletter .html sign up. But in there the alerts are just kind of straightforward and all that stuff, and then I jump in as Bubblehead and do the commentary afterwards, so you can kind of see it. So the actual account itself is basically just sort of almost like a machine doing it, and then I jump in and give the commentary and all that, so it makes it a little more educational. So that's basically what that is. So yeah, let's take a look at W. Looks like it's in a TTM squeeze mode right now, so it is still above, right? The momentum oscillator is still above 0, so it's kind of hanging around that mid level. So let's see if we can get above, golly, 168, 169, and then see if it holds, and then gives you a push up there. But I do like that it's giving that squeeze, which means, right, that the Bollinger Bands are inside the Kelt. So just watch to see which way it breaks. Now, if it breaks to the downside, it could test that 147 level. So that is possible. These Wayfair has been really strong, and so I'm just trying to see if there's any sort of pattern setting up here. Not really. It's if anything, there's like a megaphone type thing going on. So just kind of keep an eye. Hopefully it holds there for you, and then bounces. If not, it might break down a little bit further. I don't suspect it's going to fill the gap because it does have this pitchfork median line to hold on to, which is if anything, it might test below it and then come back up, in my humble opinion. So on that, let's take an LGND. Yeah, so this is doing pretty good. It's basically doing what we kind of thought it would do, right? So we had our fib fans from here to here, right, from high to low, right? The first fib fan was rejected, then it broke through, and then it kind of drifted across, came to this one, so it's pivoting right here. I'm not saying it's going to come all the way down here, but it might try to retest at least that level, this kind of 112 level-ish before it, kind of breaks through. So just kind of watch this behavior here, but certainly a break over through this fib fan line could give a further push to the upside. So momentum oscillator is pointing up. Good stuff, man. Thank you. Julian, what's going on, man? Little coffee, nice. Little coffee, studying some charts, good stuff. Yeah, let's take a look at Amazon. We haven't looked at that in a while, other than on Twitter. I left my water in the other room. So here we have this bull flag here where Amazon broke out, and then it put this. Now it's starting to kind of put in a pivot at the upper fib fan and pitchfork. So again, it is possible that it comes back down and retests the level here, this kind of 1680, 1690 level, and then bounces again. Just anytime you see these big impulsive moves, there's usually a pullback, right? So impulsive move, pullback, impulsive move, pullback, impulsive move, pullback, right? So it's tough to ride these things forever, right? Nothing goes up in a straight line in the market or straight down. I mean, sometimes it does, but rare, right? So, push up, kind of pull back, possible consolidation and then up again. So every time it consolidates, right, it builds up energy and then could potentially break to the upside. So, I'd like to see it, just kind of pull back a little bit more energy and then boom, back up possibly to 1900. So if anything could do it, Amazon could, right? Awesome. Call saw, yeah, let's take a look at Roku. So Roku, guys, was incredible, right? Pretty wild today. So we had on the notable inside weeks, Roku came up. And so this is, if you go way back and look at my video on trading breakouts sometimes can be hard, especially if the market's not on your side. So Roku is one of the only ones that was screaming up today, but couldn't quite get through the inside week today. When it did, it came back in. So right now, it's just, it's still building up energy and looks like it could still try. The high of the inside week there was 67.99. So basically a 68 break is one that you want to kind of look and see how much energy it builds up around there. On the daily, you just kind of see what it did. It basically put in a Yorikiri bar. So basically 180 reversal from Friday's move, and with a bit of the top and tail. So it's right here, closed right at the mid Bollinger Band, and then from there, let's see how it looks on our daily chart. Looking pretty interesting, right? We had that wedge right there, kind of came back in. So this could be like sort of a, A, B, and it might even pull back. And then also don't be afraid to see the inside week go to the downside as well. So something to see there. Netflix has got a TTM squeeze going on. We talked about here holding this trend line. So it's right back on the trend line again. So it's starting to perk up here on the momentum oscillator. So we'll just take a look to see if that breaks to the upside or not. In general, it's been hanging around this 360 level for a while. It has put in a few big moves around it, but you can see it's just been in this area, right? It's just kind of hanging out. To me, it needs some news or something like that for it to get going. So, I don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to push it down so they could buy it later or what the case is. But right now you have your 50 MA here around 350. You get the cloud, lower Bollinger Band at 346. And then you've got your uppers at 374 to 377. So it's holding on to this trend line. So just keep an eye on this trend line right here, to see if it breaks or not. But as long as it's holding the trend line, right, the trend is up. So so just keep an eye on that. And then finally BA, our everybody's favorite. Definitely a decent buy the dip today. Had a horrible day last week. We talked about this. This kind of momentum shooting star right here, and then it gapped down and then just gapped and kept going on Friday, just nasty. If anybody traded BA short on Friday, good for you. It was a great one to get into when the market was weak. So if you guys caught or caught with like a deer in the headlights on Friday when the market was going down, right, and you didn't know what to trade, right? Boeing was definitely one to look at, right? Because it's been just been beaten up all over in the news. No, it's a great thing to try to push. So people are going to try to short it. It did give you a little bit of an oversold signal right here on Friday, and then finally, and then today gave a little bit of a push up. So not bad trading right there on both days. Pretty solid. Da, 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 da. Andrew, what's going on? Yeah, let's take a look at CMG. I think if I'm not mistaken, CMG had another awesome day. We talked about this, but crazy today, right? So we talked about here, this spinning top right here, break to the downside. It did. I was like, I might test the 10 MA, hit it basically to the tick, this 657, and then recovered, right? Pretty impressive, and gave you a nice hammer bar right there. So again, my guess probably still some more consolidation, but watch for a 680 break on that one. And then Spot, I'm glad you mentioned that one. Spot actually came up on when I was scanning through. It's pretty bullish. So a couple reasons. One, it tested the cloud, right, and reversed. Kind of came back up, gave you a nice big green bar today. What else did it do? It tested the 50 MA. That's this red bar, right? This red line right here. Last time it tested it, came back up, landed on it, got below it, reclaimed it, right, and went up. And I don't know if we talked about that in the past. We were talking about moving averages, but sometimes these key moving averages like the 50 and the 200, if you're just looking for something to trade, sometimes you can trade just the reclaiming of those, right, or the pushing through those. That's a good breaking point too. So once it's over the 50 MA, you get some algo buying coming in, and you can kind of ride that wave back up. So nice push through there, and I think you can get some follow through on that. It's very possible. Chris, what's going on? Tesla, an implication of the suit? Yeah, right. The SEC suit being dropped, or we didn't talk about Apple yet, but yeah, let's talk about Tesla. So Tesla, I'm still not ready to go long yet on it, but I'm not necessarily ready to go short either. Probably the one to talk to is Pierre HK because of his Tesla challenge. He's definitely got a good eye on this one. But you can see what it does here. So here it closed with kind of a southern doji below the lower Bollinger Band. That's a good spot to go long. Boom, right, all the way up here. Kind of came back in. But right now it's just kind of barely hitting this lower BB, and everything is pointing down. So at this point, I'm still kind of waiting to see what it does. And it might flush to it, depending on, what the case is. At some point, it might consolidate. It might go back up. But right now, I'm really not a player in Tesla until we get to this 250 to 247 level, which is kind of a big, if I kind of go back here, is kind of a big kind of support area, and it kind of goes back a little bit further too. So my guess is it probably wants to test it, and it would be nice if it just put in a big red bar below the Bollinger Band, and then gave us an oversold signal right there, and then could potentially put a long position on even for a swing. And then let's see. Yeah, and then Apple. So Apple was pretty disappointing today. They had their big announcement, and they were going to do like some game streaming or whatever, but I don't think anyone cares. I mean, I think you can stream PlayStation games, but if you have a PlayStation, I think pretty much just use your PlayStation. It's kind of weird. But anyway, that they had a kind of a topping tail the other day, right at the 200 moving. So here we go, 200 moving average, right? So you can trade that. So when it broke the 200 moving average today, and these are good levels to have written down or put alerts on. So when it broke 190, right, it pushed down to 186. So a nice 4-point move on Apple just by breaking the 200 moving average, right? So so that's something key right there. If we kind of zoom out a little bit, we are at a fib arc. So as you stated, the Saturn line's right here. So it is holding this level pretty well. So but if it breaks, it's got a long way to fall, right? So if it gets like a downgrade or something like that tomorrow because of the horrible expectations of their goofy streaming service, then it could come back down and test the cloud like to 169 at some point, which is another fib arc level too. So we'll just kind of see how it holds right here, and then obviously if it holds, it could kind of work its way up. It's got the larger term pitchfork. Here's your I believe it's a median line. Yep, there's your median line right here, your base. So it's kind of working its way. So I would still expect some consolidation, but it's kind of hanging on to this 200-day moving average right here. So. But I'm sure we'll get some write-ups tomorrow too. Alan, what's going on, buddy? Let's look at MO. It's doing good. I mean, look at that. Gosh, look what it did. This was, I think I tweeted this out. Yeah, it had earnings right here. And I think we had the 15 order bond. We were watching it, and it kind of pulled back a little bit, right? And then wouldn't you love to just catch like a swing like that? It's beautiful. And so anyway, it's sitting right here. just over the 200 moving average. What I do like is it went inside day on Friday, so it held up even when the market was really just flushing, and started to try to break that to the upside. So I like this. So this is a nice sort of like a reversal over reversal, right? So inside, try to go to the downside, then back up, kind of broke a little bit, then back up, and so I don't see why not. It might consolidate for a little bit longer, but I definitely like some upside potential on that one. Jay, what's going on? How's it going? What caused gold stocks to surge today? Good question. They kind of go in tandem. If we go GLD, I mean, they kind of do their own things a lot of times. I don't know like the macro stuff that's behind gold and all that, but we can take a look at the technicals, kind of see what's happening. Gold does bounce around, right? So it likes to gap. So you have gap, inside, and then down, gap, right? Up gap, down gap, right? Up gap, hold, and then up, right? So this was kind of a nasty bar right here, but it's holding the cloud, right? Inside bar and then gap. So there's some really interesting write-ups on gold, kind of some ancient writings from the 20s that kind of talk about how gold trades and how to kind of manage these gaps. I never really got into it. It was a little bit too much. But it still does look pretty bullish. I mean, if anything, it might come down, kind of retest this cloud area, this 124, and might see, kind of a push there. So, but the underlying news behind it, I'm not too sure, and I apologize, I don't have that. So, but it looks pretty cool though. INBH. Shirley, what's up? Let's take a look at a couple of these. Let me find. I've got my charts all moved around here. Let me find a good one. Yeah, let's take a look here. It's back to the 5. Okay, let me put the daily up here. Sorry, I was doing a lot of different charts for the newsletter, so let me just let me push this here. Let's do a year. Okay, there we go. Back to normal. Okay, so so here we go again. So we have another great one, Shirley, that you found a breakout on through the through volumetric resistance. So cup, handle, break. So I think your levels look good. EXC. Exelon is doing excellent. Just be careful here. It's getting oversold on the RSI. So it's already done its cup handle break of the volumetric level. So kind of coming up to earnings and all that stuff. Just watch here. If this curls over, what you might have is a bearish divergence on oversold RSI, which could be a little, or overbought RSI, which could be a little bit dangerous. It does have a little pause bar there, so you could get another push. But just be careful here that if this does curl over, it might come back and retest that 47 level. FE. Kind of similar, except this one's a little more constructive. I remember when we were tracking this back in the day, right? Remember this channel that we drew? Let's just continue to move it forward. In fact, I'll just extend it to the right to infinity. So right now we're kind of coming back up here. So watch a pivot and then a possible comeback down, right? So this is just one that we were tracking since a couple of months ago, and it did finally break out at the volumetric level, but again, it may come back down here and just kind of work this way through the channel. So watch the breaks here. So even this break, the channel ended up being pretty good and came back in. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on there with that in mind. TWM. Wow, you'd almost think this is like Bitcoin or something like that. So huge move to the upside, then back down. Let's actually do, let's just see how that looks real quick. Yeah, it's already done. All right, so from here to the low, what we see is a test of the fib fan, back down, testing the fib fan again, kind of gave you a little pivot bar here too. So just watch for a pullback on that one. Well. I have to remember to bring my water next time. Normally, you guys know I normally drink a lot during it, so my throat's like all like ah. But okay, so here we go. So this goes here, here. So a little bit of a trend line, kind of happening here. Just, it does look. It's giving you a nice little little waves, like little moves. I would draw like a bracket on this too, or a cycle bracket. So just from kind of like peak to trough, just for when the cycle's in. Here, just kind of see if we can match it up. So here we've got a cycle, right? So it may push, but just watch for a, you know, potential boom, halfway, boom, halfway, boom, halfway, boom. So, right, just watch. It might kind of curl over there. So, but it is at a good spot. So, I mean, so definitely worth keeping an eye on there. Okay, LW. Yeah, it broke through this kind of median level right here. Looks like kind of a failed head and shoulders. So it looks like a decent reversal. Just be careful. You got earnings coming up pretty soon. DHI. Similar. Just be careful of this. Possible kind of rising wedge formation. If I could click that. I know it kind of undershot it right here a little bit, but just be careful on there. If it breaks again to the downside, it could retest those lower levels. And then nugget. Nice breakout right there. So, and there's our pitchfork back in the pitchfork. So maybe a little, consolidation. Then, like I said, push up to maybe that, 25 area, and you've got 29. Long term could do it. Andrew, no problem, man. My pleasure. Pritesh, hey Shirley, do you post yours on Twitter too? I know everybody wants Shirley. She still doesn't have Twitter, but she found us through YouTube itself. So she nails that one. That one was like a 2,000 point move or a 2,000% move. It was pretty incredible. Jay, yeah, no problem, man. And Pritesh, yeah, I know you both need to create one or whatever. Yeah, Shirley, jump on. I think you should do one. I'll follow you. I mean, you do great. So as long as you only tweet like charts and all that stuff. If it's other stuff, it's hard for me to follow that stuff. But anyway, appreciate you guys, and I hope that was a good lesson. I think the that momentum indicator is pretty cool if you guys can catch a head and shoulders on it. Yeah, at this point, I hope everybody has a good night and a good train day tomorrow. Keep an eye out if you guys are part of the newsletter. Lots of cool stuff in there. They're playing out this week. You also get the free alert service that's part of it, and so I tweet out trades with SPX and some other kind of 60 anchors and things like that. So just check that out and have a good night, and I will see you guys tomorrow.